Reunion and understanding. Reunion being the key component of that. Let's see then. Like I said, I have a decent idea about who that could be. I mean, the hat's really quite similar. It's a different color though. Ooh, yes. Ooh. Oh, it's a trap? Ooh. Yeah, that's not Jing. It's gotta be. It's gotta be Kite. Ooh. It is Kite. Interesting looking fishing rod. Psychotic clown. So is this like a emission or a conjurer? Ooh, bit of a different look for Kite though. It's not the biggest surprise though, is it? You know, it being Kite. It just all kind of checks out. Ooh. Ants? Yeah, he wasn't shooting at them. Certainly wasn't shooting at Gon. Oh, yes, new score. Nope, nope. Someone who knows Jing quite a bit. He doesn't... Does he not recognize Gon? No, no, no. Yeah, there's something going on here. Ooh. Now Killua got smacked by him as well. Okay, these ants are... Gone? Ooh. Quarantine. Yeah, it'd be a shame if there is an outbreak. You don't want that. Yeah, it has. I'm surprised it's taken this long though. Okay, Gon might have been really quite young, but for him, it should be... The hair color is a little bit different this time. Yeah, they caught him in the middle of something. Yeah. I love his reaction anytime he does that. Yeah. It came flooding back. Ooh, the fox bear. Interesting. Much more ferocious looking. Yeah. Again, because of Gon's presence. They don't remember each other. I mean, now it's beginning to come back. This is surprising. Ooh. Yeah, the cub is much more ferocious. Because he told him. Oh. Oh, wow. This is a completely different take then. Old. Okay. Beautiful. Much to discuss here in terms of the approach that they decided to take. Ooh, footprints. Oh. Yeah. Ominous. Oh my god. Kind of reminds me of Smeagol, or Gollum rather. Now, was that an overgrown ant? One of these ants? Looked like it. Look at that smile. Look at that smile. And my benefactor. Of a slum. Yeah. It's an ongoing theme, isn't it? Yeah, look at that. That tells a story, doesn't it? Oh, I love this. Look at this guy. Almost kind of looks like the favelas from Brazil. Is he around Gon's age? Maybe a little bit older? I think maybe a little bit older, yeah. Nice. Oh, beautiful. It is a sign of a good hunter, right? Kite? Ooh. Oh, look at this. Yeah, it's definitely a sign of a good hunter. Jing's probably looking on. Almost kind of reminds me of... Ooh, yep, there he is. Speak of the devil. Kind of reminds me of Levi, Underground. He's already there. And the animals like him. Yeah, that's right. There's a horse? Like you said as well, in 99, episode 1. That's...
半ば強引にな。あの人は面倒なことはとことん嫌がる性格だから、そうしているうちに俺の念能力も開発され、ハントのイロハも。
And imagine having a master like Jing by your side.
おかげでハンター試験そのものはほとんど苦労なくクリアしたんだ。
Yeah, like Killua second run.
ジンさんに認めてもらうには、もう一つ課題をクリアしなければならなかった。
Of course.
どんな課題を出されたと思う？
Yep, all of us know. Catch me if you can. Come find me. God knows. He's doing it himself.
なんとなくじゃない。俺を捕まえてみろって。
その通り。
Beautiful.
だが相手は俺の知る限り世界最高のハンターだ。これがどんな狩りより難しい。
And that set.
尻尾を捕まえようにも足跡すら残
That set Kite on his own journey, right? Look at this.
全く耳に入ってこない。
All part of Jing's plan.
あの人はこの世から自分という存在を完全に消し去っていた。
Right.
超人的な絶ってこと。
Right.
ほとほと困った俺は少しでも手がかりを得たいと思って。
Well, it took you to a lot of places, didn't it? Ah, of course. And the thing is, Jing must have known, right? Sooner or later, he's going to have to go there. Yeah, that's one of the big differences. Yeah. Jing, he simply knew that naturally Gon and Kite are going to meet if he shows up there, right? So he thinks really far ahead. It is common sense, but he needed someone, right? And it ended up being Kite, I suppose. So thanking him for the lesson there. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. The man has everything set up. Certainly seems like it, right? Yeah, yeah. Dune son. Yeah, but he must have been there. His name's in there. I mean, not his actual name, but his given name in the game. He knew Greed Island is going to draw these types of, or people of this ilk. It's not as if it's a bad thing, right? That it didn't end up being Jing. Oh, okay, he didn't do it himself then. Okay, so this Kite is more so kind of forgetful about things. It comes to him eventually, but... I believe that was the title. Yeah, Jing did it for him. At least he's taking it in good spirits.
ゴンがマグネティックフォースを使ったら俺の
Ah,
アカンパニーを使ったらカイトの方に飛ぶように設定できるか
of course.
なんでそんなこと
But he knew Jing.
マグネティックフォースを使って一人で来るならまあ会ってやってもいいが仲間連れてくるような根性なしには会うわけにはいかないからな
I mean, he's got his own friends.
なんで根性なしなの
Yeah,
全然わかんない
that's your friend right there.
いっぱいで来られると恥ずかしいんでしょ
うるせえないいからやれよ
He is a bit of a lone wolf, right?
まったく変な人照れ屋でへそ曲がりなんだか
Shy
ら
and stubborn.
ゴンくんかわいそう。
つまりグリードアイランドってゲーム自体がお前たちを鍛えるために作られたってことか。
タチっていうか
Oh, hold on, Kill.
俺はこいつにくっついてきただけだから
Listen, Jing must have known that Gon is going to make
それも
friends.
ジンの筋書き通りなのかもしれないよ俺もいやいやそれはありえねえだろ
ここで俺と出会ったのはどうやら
Yeah.
偶然じゃないらし
So
い。
it wasn't
ああ
Jing or
それ
bust.
は俺もそう
It
思
was.
う
It is
このことに
50-50.
はもっと意味がある
Hmm.
レイザーがゴンを鍛えるためにゲーム内で待っていたようにジンはきっとカイトにも何か役割を与えてると考えるのが普通だろ
This is Jing's own student, so that's a.
カイトは最終試験でジンを探し当てたんでしょそれってすごいことだと思う
And he
世界
completed
最
it,
高レベルのハンターは
right?
ハントの腕だけじゃなく自分の存在を隠す術にも長けてるそれを見つけ出したんだから
うん俺もそう思う。
最終試験をクリアしたカイトはジンに認められたんだこの男なら任せられるって
Insightful input, Killua. It gave something.
よく殴ってく
It
れ
gave Kite something to think about.
なあゴン、ジンさんが今どこにいるか教え
No chance. No chance. Bit of a test as well.
うん
Nah,
自分で探す
of course.
いい答えだ。
Oh.
それよりジンのことを話してよ
Oh.
カイトが知ってるジンのこと全部
Yeah,
ヒ
about
トクビ
that.
オオカミの繁殖方法の確立そんなこともやってるのジンは
ああ、ジンさんのハンターとしての活動
Yeah.
は幅広くて制限が
I've heard.
ジンさんは
Satotes told me
面
all
倒
the way
くさがって
back
申
then.
請していないが、実はトリプルハンターと比べても何ら遜色が
Triple
ないんだ。
star hunter. Hey, Tazagira's a
華
one
々
star
しい
hunter.
業
That's
績
still
を残した
impressive.
ハンターには星が与えられる。その中で
Beautiful.
歴史的な発見や世界的な偉業を成し遂げた者には星3つ。
Yeah.
こいつは世界に10人もいないと言われてるんだ。
へえそんなすごい人たちと肩を並べてるんだねジンは
Yeah. It's interesting for Killua to sit in on this, right? To see how Gon reacts to all of this.
ジンに認められたハンターか
Yeah, it's a big deal. Happy to be in his company, right?
ジンの弟子カイト。彼との出会いがゴンとキルアに新たな冒険への旅立ちを予感させていた頃、ヨルビアン大陸
Yorbian.
諸島の南端ではかつてない恐怖の事態へのプロ
Unparalleled
ローグ
fear.
が静かにしかし着々と進行していた。
Yeah, this is ominous.
大変
He
こんなもので
speaks.
はいくら食べてもしかし動けん焦るな
Whoa.
もう少し
Why
体を
is it
回復させる
showing-
のだまずは体を癒しそれからだ
You know, this kind of feels like some of the Dragon Ball
私に
inspiration
は
coming
使
in.
命がある
Like,
王を生む私は女王だ
oh. Yeah. To continue, yeah, you know, that really truly felt like some of the Dragon Ball inspiration coming back in there. Because that reminds me of Cell. You know? Cell's earlier forms are kind of, you know, meek and inconsequential. But, Perfect Cell, or, you know, even before Perfect Cell, it's a different story. Yeah, I see it. I see the roadmap. Okay, I think now it's safe to assume that Greed Island has concluded, right? Even though there is mention of Greed Island and, you know, some of its components, and, you know, some of the people that are a part of that story arc, ultimately, yeah, you know, this feels like something new, something different, right? the contrast is there to see almost immediately, right? Yeah, because it does have a sudden shift. It does. Be it through the score, the debut of at least two new brilliant pieces, in my opinion, at least. You immediately kind of feel the essence of this, I don't know, upcoming arc, I suppose. It certainly doesn't have that cheery and, playful tone anymore, right? That's kind of prominent throughout Greed Island. Now, of course, Greed Island does have a lot of darker moments, a lot of serious moments, dangerous moments, right? Concerning moments, but still, as a whole, especially if you look at the main theme of Greed Island, right? It's really quite playful. It really kind of leans into the whole, game aspect of it. This is something else now, folks. It's clear. The message is clear. I'm stepping into something else, right? I'm kind of stepping into the unknown. It still kind of feels like that, even though there is some setup, right, for perhaps near future, and then it also has setup for something that is going to come into prominence, maybe a little bit down the line, right? And this setup, it has this really distinct sense of foreboding about it. Again, the score comes right into play. This is exciting. Exciting because this feels like something really quite different from the anime, from the story, in the sense that the stakes that could be at play here are on a scale that is much larger, possibly much larger than I've experienced so far in this anime. Because up until this point, each arc has kind of been more of a, I don't know, location and character focus, right? It's kind of, it's not trying to diminish it. Of course not. I'm not trying to diminish it. It's actually, it's a bit of a compliment that, it is able to focus on, different, pieces, be it the Hunter Exam and that collection of characters. And then, of course, Heaven's Arena and that collection of characters. And again, the plot elements. And then, of course, Rescue Killua arc. Then you've got, York New City. And now you've got Greed Island. All of these story arcs have been really quite focused, right? And, the world of this anime is just fantastic, right? It's really quite rich. But now, for the first time, just around the midpoint of the anime, it really does feel like there is setup there now for something on a much, much larger scale, right? The stakes, it really truly feels like by the end of this, the stakes that might be at play, again, perhaps down the line and not quite just yet, but, it feels like it could be the beginning of something major. That's certainly my takeaway. And of course, I am speaking of this Chimera ant angle, but to be a bit more specific, the queen, right? The queen that has a duty to fulfill, right? To give birth to the king. And kings tend to rule, right? So I'm sure you're probably kind of dialing into my thought process here as well. And it is quite the setup, isn't it? The thing is, up until, there's a bit of a bombshell that's dropped on me right at the end, give birth to the king. I actually thought the queen is the one that is this new danger, right? Lingering in the shadows, in the darkness. I thought that is about to be this, potential global scale threat, right? But all of a sudden, right in the middle of my point about, it kind of feeling like Dragon Ball, right? That Dragon Ball inspiration kind of coming into play now, it tells me about the king. So it appears that it's actually going to be this king figure that is, probably going to end up being this threat, right? On a much larger scale. Again, after spending quite a bit of time establishing this phenomenal ensemble cast, I feel this is how Tagashi is about to kind of bring a lot of them together, or together in the sense that, again, based on a potential global level threat, they have no choice but to kind of be on the same side, right? For the time being. Again, the formula is something all of us have experienced quite a bit. And to be a little bit more specific again, Cell, right? That's the feeling I was getting from this creature, right? Now the creature itself, the queen itself, there's some interesting things at play here, right? Because before I even get the queen, and then of course the setup for this king figure, that's going to come into play, that is going to be a part of this anime. Maybe not in the near future, but certainly at some point. And at that point, things might get real, right? Really real. And like I said earlier, kings tend to lead, kings tend to rule. And listen, I just highly doubt that, once this king does arrive, that he's going to be content, or it, rather, I suppose, is going to be content, just ruling a little piece of land, right? Some continent that's so far from our principal cast, from the sounds of it, right? The setup is there. It made it really quite specific that, okay, right now, it's not an issue. It's not even close to being on the radar of our principal cast. Actually, that being said, it's certainly, the Chimera ants, at least the smaller ones, even those are really quite, I almost said pesky, but this is beyond pesky. He said an army of Chimera ants could easily have taken out Killua. Like they would have consumed him, right? An army of smaller Chimera ants, human flesh. It's not taboo or anything. They're open to it. Right? So, even there's a bit of setup, isn't there? They have a taste for that. Or they've developed a taste for it. And then, of course, you kind of go down, or you tumble down the rabbit hole, because then you have so many questions, or I have so many questions. How exactly did they come to be? The origins of the Chimera ants. Are they artificially, maybe not artificially created, but, experiments rather, right? Is Nen at play at all here, right? Or are these just are these just creatures that exist? Because again, the setup is there. This world, the world of this anime, is full of these types of interesting, intriguing, and just baffling creatures. And I've seen a bunch of them already. Even in this, I saw this flying creature. In that little flashback of Kite on his journey to find his sensei, to find his teacher, to locate him as, the final test. And, he does locate Jing. So it's doable. Gon, it is doable, right? So in that, it's almost kind of like, set up, or kind of hinting at, or foreshadowing that, okay, at some point, Gon is going to be able to do the same thing, perhaps. And of course, I'll get to the whole, Gon and, Kite reunion aspect of this, or component of this. There's quite a bit to get to. So, get ready, folks. Strap in, because I'm excited. This has me really damn excited. And, right now, my focus is on the ending of the episode. It's almost as if it kind of hijacks it, doesn't it? But yeah, going back to the Chimera ants, at least in that location, and also, this kind of reminds me in terms of the tone and, the sudden shift, or the distinct shift in it. Now, of course, it could be the location itself. It is a swamp, but, there is a noticeable shift in the color palette as well, right? It's a little bit more grayish, right? It's foggy. Again, that could be the location. This episode's full of eerie moments, actually, especially anytime, they kind of, transition to the queen in the cave. By the end of it, it actually ended up reminding me of Melisandre from Game of Thrones. I'm not going to go any further, just in case, there's still people that haven't seen that show. But, if you know, right? Melisandre and, caves and all of that. I'll leave it at that. But going back to the smaller Chimera ants, they are on Kite's radar. He's there clearly for that reason, right? He even tells them, it's quarantine, that these creatures are quarantined. But that being said, there's a whole big ass Chimera ant queen on a different continent. Now, again, see, did that queen always look like that? I think I'm kind of leaning towards that, being of that size. And it's clearly being depicted as it being able to speak the common tongue. They easily could have given us some kind of alien-esque language, right? And then kind of have a translation for it at the bottom, but it didn't. It had the queen speak the common language, right? That's used in the anime. So yeah, I mean, that in itself was also really bit of a surprise, right? That it speaks, right? And then, as far as things in common, with humans, there's also a really deliberate shot of the teeth really up close. And, that's the shot that reminded me of, Smeagol biting into the fish, right? It's one of those, for me at least, it's one of those memorable scenes out of Lord of the Rings. I mean, it's really, as a whole, of course, it feels inconsequential, but, it's one of those things, striking imagery that always stuck out to me. But yeah, the tight shot is really quite deliberate to give us a look at the teeth, right? And the teeth are really human-like, really human-like. Yeah. Interesting, really quite interesting. And then, it also kind of reminded me of Alien, even the hissing noise it made. So yeah, it's there's just so much that I'm thinking about at the moment. But yeah, going back to my initial thought, I'm kind of leaning towards the queen always being of this size. But again, the other possibility being it might have been a small chimera ant at some point, and it kind of grew to this size. But let's look at let's kind of look at the shape the queen is in at the moment. You see that it's in rough shape, right? It's kind of barely holding on, but it's holding on. The queen, or she's holding on, again, because it truly believes it has a purpose, right? It's a duty, rather, to, again, give birth to this king figure. But, you see that it's been in some kind of, I don't know, encounter, right? That someone came across this queen and they tried to fight this queen, right? They tried to, end it, perhaps. Maybe someone did know the connotations of this queen, the connotations of letting this queen escape, right? Because you see, it's kind of missing a few hands, though, at one point I thought it's actually cannibalizing itself, right? Because I couldn't clearly see the things it was eating at one point, right? And it's a shot from behind, and I saw one of the hands or one of the limbs is missing, and I thought it's cannibalizing itself because it might be that desperate. But again, almost immediately they made it clear that, okay, that it is feasting on fish, but the fish is not enough. It's not enough, not nearly enough for the type of energy that, the queen needs at this point. But yeah, as the queen said, these creatures are not enough, right? No matter how many I eat. And, the focus has to be on the healing process. I must heal, right? So I can take the next step. Yeah, see, so if these creatures, the fish, are not enough, what's next on the menu? Huh? Larger animals, perhaps? Can you go a step further and kind of lean into that setup? If need be, or if it comes to it, right? If the opportunity is there, and it might have been there if Kite wasn't there to, kind of jump in and save Gon and Killua. Though, speaking of saving, notice how Killua, right, immediately just jumps in to save Gon, or, at least take one for the team, or take one for Gon, rather. There's no team, it's just Gon and Killua here. Yeah, just selfless. He didn't know. He had no idea that Kite's actually trying to protect them. He thought Kite's just about to take him out, right? I actually initially thought, they're about to step into a trap. As Gon kind of steps in, and it's a little bit mushy, and his foot goes in, right? And it's kind of unlucky that they show up, right? They teleport right in front of the nest, or right in really close proximity to the nest of these Chimera ants. But of course, once again, Kite to the rescue, much like it was Kite to the rescue in 99 episode 1. One of the things I'm really quite excited to tackle is this approach to Kite, right? Now, I've seen it twice, once in 99 episode 1, and now here in 2011 Hunter x Hunter, right? There's still some similarities, right? I've seen a bit of a flashback there. It shows me 2011's take on the fox bear and the fox bear cub, and Kite showing up on the home island and all of that, right? But there's some significant differences, to the point that, in my mind, it was kind of beginning to feel like, okay, for example, One Piece, right? That's my jam. It's always been my jam for a long time. I know most of you know this by now, but I kind of put it up on the same level as if you erase Shanks, from the early days of One Piece, the first few episodes even, right? Of course, all of us know how much Shanks means to Luffy, right? And the impact he had on Luffy. That was a feeling from, Hunter x Hunter 99 episode 1. That, Kite is playing that kind of a role for Gon. He's his introduction to hunters, to the hunter exam. He is the one who tells him about his father, that he's still alive, he's out there, right? But here in 2011, it's a bit of a different take, right? A lot of the first times actually happened here in this episode, right? So again, now I know for sure that I cannot apply everything from 99 episode 1 to this, because some things are really drastically different. They certainly made a choice here. Now, again, I don't know about the background stuff on this, on the production elements of it, and the main reasoning for kind of leaving it out. I really do think it's a significant choice, right? One that's a bit of a baffling one. But before I deviate too much, I kind of need to return to my point about the Queen. I just couldn't help myself there for a second. I simply had to kind of get into the Kite component of this. But of course, I'll come back to that. But going back to the Queen and this just not being enough, the fish, these creatures, as it calls it, you begin kind of going down that slippery slope, right? Especially given the really, specific setup about the smaller Chimera ants. Yeah, I'm thinking of that possibility that humans could be on the menu, or meat is back on the menu, boys. If you know, you know. Most should know that reference, right? It's scary shit. I know I'm laughing. It's just mainly because of the reference I just made. But yeah, there's a distinct possibility of that it could require something of that magnitude for the Queen to really truly heal itself. But that being said, the Queen is most definitely stuck in there, right? It's not going to be moving anytime soon. So if anything drastic is going to happen here, or if there is going to be a drastic change in the sustenance that the Queen is taking in, it simply has to be a third party. Now, of course, the immediate thought is, okay, if this is the Queen, there could be Chimera ants that could be attracted to the Queen, that might come to the rescue of the Queen, that may assist the Queen. But, the big, stumbling block there is that this Queen is on a different continent, right? Again, that's a bit of a head scratcher. How exactly did this Queen get here, right? They show us the footprints, right? On the beach or on the sand, on shore. And then, it retreats into a dark, safe cave, right? And, that's the thing. Slowly throughout the episode, it transitions every now and then to the cave, right? And it slowly kind of builds on that feeling of dread, slowly. And by the end of it, it's just full on, right? That this is happening, that this is set up now. And, the thing I love about these transitions to that is that, it's such a contrast. It almost even kind of feels like it's a different planet, even though it's not. Right, because you look at the setup on one end, or the setting in one end of this, it's Kite, Gon, and Killua around a campfire, right, catching up, sharing information, and all of that stuff, and then it cuts to this, this really, really concerning thing that's kind of brewing. It's just so effective, right? No one knows, right? People are just doing their thing, going about their business. Simple things are going on here, like a reunion. And then there's this in some dark cave. No one even knows about it. No one knows about it. And this could turn into something just cataclysmic, right? This right here could be, ground zero, square one of something that could. And, it really feels like it might turn into something cataclysmic, right? If this king is born. And listen, this king is going to be born. And I'm sure this character, this king character, is probably going to be quite fascinating. So, the thing is, that feeling I was getting from this of, Cell, right? the thing is, not only did the creature itself, the queen, and again, it trying to heal itself and kind of getting into shape for the next phase. Not only did that remind me of Cell, you can actually kind of even maybe apply, the structure or the roadmap of the Cell saga, right, as a potential, prediction or speculation. Maybe there's no ties to that at all. Maybe there's no inspiration, but beyond maybe just the creature aspect of it, right? But the angle I'm trying to apply here possibly is, again, that global threat, right? And then of course a lot of different characters kind of coming together, ensemble cast of incredible characters having to come together, no option but to come together, right, in the face of a common enemy. And this distinct feeling of this being kind of like a I don't know, history changing moment almost, and no one even knows about it, right? This truly feels like down the line, there might be a lot of regret. There might be a lot of what if they could have gotten to the queen before any of this took off? What if they took care of this problem? What if? I feel like a lot of that could be at play down the line. It really truly feels like that. But again, the queen did say that it has to heal before it can take the next step. So, like I said, it felt like, yeah, there's been an encounter and it escaped. Just barely, but it escaped. So someone or something certainly came across this the queen ant, or the queen chimera ant, rather. But again, there's still a lot of unknowns because, as far as Kite is concerned, those are all of them, right? Because they are quarantined. So you have to just assume, okay, these are all the chimera ants. And they are kind of native to that area, perhaps. They've been discovered in that area, and, Kite's been there, and he actually got caught in the middle of doing something. He's fishing. And, I believe he said something about, okay, the nest is gone now, though. So, the nest kind of being intact or undisturbed, I suppose, it was something that was a part of his plans. He's clearly on some kind of mission here, right? He's tackling this. He's handling this. And perhaps, Jing knows about it. Hell, Jing might have sent him there. But yeah, I'm really quite excited to find out more, learn more about this queen, and, how come the queen itself is so far removed from the chimera ant nest that Kite came across. And, again, it's possible that Kite thinks, or, Kite and Jing think that this is the only one, the only nest that is around, and, it's been quarantined, but, on a different continent, there's something else going on. Something else entirely. But yeah, let's kind of speculate a bit more about this king figure that is on the horizon at this point. But if indeed the similarity to Cell continues on to the king itself from the queen, then, it's quite the rabbit hole to tumble down, right? Because because Cell's whole thing is all about, taking on superior beings, or taking in rather the essence of a superior being. Maybe not even a superior being, because at some points it's just regular humans. But then of course, to reach yet another level, a different level, the perfect level, it needs to begin taking in people on a different level, people that are of a much, higher caliber, I suppose, in comparison to just the normal, humans, the red shirts in Dragon Ball, I suppose. And of course, all of the speculation might not even matter, right? Because it's all based on, okay, does the king actually need to continue consuming, right? I'm going to go ahead and kind of assume, or at least that's my first thought, that the king's not going to come out perfect. I'm not even sure the type of, form it's going to come out in, rather, like, is it going to be a baby, baby king at first, or in its infant form, rather, and then, it has to consume, and then, of course, get to different levels, different forms? Or is the king just going to come out in its final form? But I'll leave it at that for, all the, possible speculation about similarities to Cell, because again, it might take a totally different direction altogether, right? So I don't want to spend too much time going down that path. But yeah, I'm really quite excited to see the next time they show me the queen, right? And I'm sure
they are going to kind of, check in from time to time. It really feels like that, because again, it feels like it's such an effective, presentation. They might show us something completely unrelated, unsuspecting characters, principal cast characters just doing their thing, right? And then again, on some other continent, this is going on, right? The narrator certainly made it quite clear, right? A prologue to unparalleled fear. But also, just one more point about the Queen. Actually, it's going back to a point I made earlier. Again, it's speaking the common language, and then of course the really human-like teeth as well. Yeah, it feels like it is an evolution, right? It is an evolution, and the thing is, it might have already consumed humans, right? And maybe that led to this, or led to these human-like features. With each change, I change too. Eh? That's, really quite applicable to Cell, isn't it? But yeah, let's shift the focus to the other part of this episode, Kite and the reunion. And the thing is, just over the span of 2 episodes, 99 episode 1 and 2011 episode 76, I'm really, really digging Kite. I really like Kite. And of course, by the end of this episode, it's really clear that, Kite's about to play a major part in this next phase of the anime, of the story, or the plot, specifically Gon's plot as well, right? He's kind of stepping in now as the next mentor figure. And this truly is Gon's closest connection to Jing, right? It doesn't really get much closer than that, unless, of course, there's others like Kite out there, right? But, going back to 99 episode 1, they made it pretty clear that Kite is really quite significant. But the tricky bit and bit of a bummer as well is that I don't know, I can't really apply that to this, can I? I do have to take this as its own thing, because it does kind of erase a few really critical components of this, Kite and Gon relationship. In 2011's take on it, it's not Kite who tells him about hunters, and tells him about Jing, his father, and that he's alive and he's out there. It's not Kite that has that impact on sorry, I almost said Killua, on Gon, though. Kite certainly has a bit of an impact on Killua as well, right? Killua certainly took to Kite, right? There's this immediate respect for Kite. You see that Killua is quite, happy, really quite glad to be in his presence. And also in 2011's take on it, the Fox Bear incident seems to be the end of it, really, right? Because, Gon didn't tell him his name, didn't really get to talk much from the looks of it, because, they confirmed that Kite actually learned about Gon from Jing himself, once he does find him. And that scene's really quite interesting as well, isn't it? Again, from a few different perspectives, be it from Kite's perspective, he had quite the shock once he found out that that's actually my master's son. That's my sensei's son that I ran into, right? And not only that, I smacked him, right? So at first he's petrified. And you see that Jing actually kind of trolls him as well, right? He makes it seem like he is about to strike him, but no, instead he thanks him, right? And that right there got such an interesting reaction out of Gon, didn't it? He just seemed so positively thrilled to hear about this, that Jing actually thanked Kite for punching him, right? For striking him, for teaching him that lesson ultimately. I mean, Gon is excited about a lot of the different information he does get from Kite, but at that moment, that had to be Gon at his most excited. He's just so full of joy at that moment. And, to me, it felt like Gon feels that, okay, Jing actually does care, or he cares enough that, he's thanking Kite, his student. Maybe, you could even call him his right-hand man, for, stepping in and teaching Gon that lesson, or, kind of helping him learn. And, that Jing actually did take an interest in that. There's simply just nothing critical on Gon's end, right? Because he's looking at Jing and, kind of processing this information about Jing. And there's some incredible information that he's getting here from perhaps the most personal and relevant source up until this point. Yes, I had, characters like Satotes, right? Tell him about Jing freaks, right? But Satotes, he admires Jing from afar, right? He doesn't know Jing on a personal level, but Kite does. So as far as Gon looking at Jing from a really specific lens or through a really specific lens, I mean, Jing's reputation just kind of grows. It continues to improve in Gon's eyes, right? Again, his reputation as a hunter, his accomplishments, and these are really, special accomplishments, impressive. He's a bit of a cult figure, right? He is. He just is. He is someone important in in the world of hunters, or maybe even the world as a whole. He is that type of figure. So yeah, from that perspective, yeah, Gon is just eating it up. He's just loving it, right? Like I said, positively thrilled about everything. And Gon simply just isn't thinking about the other angle, right? The father angle, or the absent father angle, right? Like he said, calling him Jing feels right. He told Mito-san all that time ago, no, I think Jing, I'll call him Jing because that feels right to me. And it all kind of goes back to episode 1, right? And this is similar for both episode 199 and episode 1 2011, right? This idea, this belief that Gon has, again, maybe a little bit naive. It is kind of naive. But he truly felt that, okay, being a hunter, being on that path, going on that journey, it must be so incredible. It must be so fulfilling and special that it is worth abandoning your child over. And the thing is, at this point, it's really kind of feeding into that. The more he learns about Jing and the things he's done, the accomplishments and all of that, and how people like Kite, someone really quite impressive, respectable, really respectable, the way they speak of Jing and the things Jing did for them. Jing coming into people's lives is life altering. It is. There's so many examples of it. Again, the most recent one being Kite. The way Kite spoke of Jing is just, you could just see how much it means to Kite, right? It's special. I mean, at this point, it's so clear that Jing has affected so many lives out there. I mean, he's changed the trajectory of so many lives, right? Shaped them for the better, or redirected them even, right? You've got people like Razor. You've got people like Kite, who latched onto Jing. But yeah, it's an interesting plot point to keep track of, Gon's perception of Jing, right? And if ever he is going to find himself being critical of Jing, right, at some point. But yeah, as you guys know, I felt that it's far too early for Gon to actually come across Jing this early on, midpoint of the anime. So, I was pretty sure that's not going to be Jing. And then, of course, the possibility of it actually being Kite was quite a strong one as well, given the fact that I had seen him really quite recently in 99 episode 1. Yeah, it does end up being Kite. And that makes a lot of sense as well. Like I said, it didn't mean that it's Jing or bust. It's not like, oh, Jing tricked him and that's that. No, instead, now you meet Kite. Now you kind of go on this journey together, or rather, this is the next phase of his journey, both Gon and Killua. And the thing is, Kite also gets to come across these really impressive young kids, right? Clever, and accomplished as well, right? In their own right. And you see that Killua understands, he completely understands just how impressive Kite is. And he tells him, after, kind of completing his final task, and the final task is quite the daunting one, right? Finding Jing is no easy task. It's just not, especially given the fact that he is a master of, hiding as well, hiding his presence. I think Killua said something about, a different form of Zetsu, right? Almost as if it is Zetsu, right? A different type of application of Zetsu. That's how effective Jing is at concealing his presence. But yeah, he managed. Kite managed. But the thing is, again, it's kind of like a textbook Jing thing to do, right? In the process, Kite kind of goes on his own journey. He goes to different places, amazing places, challenging to navigate places, right? The sights, the sounds of the incredible places that are a part of the world of this anime. Kite gets to go through all of that, much like how Jing has kind of laid out a roadmap for Gon as well, right? Actually, the thing is, Jing's actually been really quite effective in, um, you know, planning that roadmap, and kind of anticipating Gon's moves, right? He's been really quite effective in anticipating them. Hell, he even anticipates that Gon is going to end up, or most likely Gon is going to end up, you know, being sneaky, or sneak out one of the teleportation cards. Be it a company or be it magnetic force. And the thing is, I was actually speaking of magnetic force, right? It came into play, right? And you see now it is by design as well, bringing it back up and bringing it to our attention, right? You see the Nen Exorcist use magnetic force, but then Gon decides to use a company, because of course he was always going to use a company, because that was the only option. That was the only thing on his mind. It had to be a company because Killua has to be there. He has to come, right? So magnetic force does not even cross his mind. And the thing is, Jing might have already kind of anticipated that, or he might have known that there's a really good chance by now, Gon also might have come across people that might be special, people that he considers friends. Because to get to Greed Island, to get to that point, and then to clear Greed Island and then get the prize, right? He had to go through a lot before he could even enter Greed Island, right? The Hunter exam, learning about Nen, right? On that journey, there's a really good chance that Gon could come across someone special, someone that he does consider a friend. He came across a few of them actually, right? Even though there's no signs of Leorio or Krapika, it doesn't look like I'll see them anytime soon. But yeah, he came across a bunch of them. But, Killua being someone really quite special to Gon. So even though it seems like it would have been a 50-50 chance for Gon to actually see Jing this early on, I don't think it actually was a 50-50, because ultimately a company was the one he was always going to pick. And then of course the company is set up to take Gon to Kite. And that, that's really quite important as well. And also there's this really interesting thing going on with not the evolution or the growth of Jing, right? Because in a lot of the flashbacks, and I get a bunch of them actually in Greed Island, I see a younger, fresh-faced Jing, right? And he looks, he's a handsome fellow, right? He's really quite put together, just full of life and energy. Again, there's that iconic shot of him holding baby Gon, right? Even there, he just looked so, again, young and just full of life. But the thing that I've noticed here is that, again, it's been brought to my attention in this episode as well. He's kind of, he looks kind of rough now. And by now, I mean maybe the most recent, version of Jing. Though again, I'm not sure how old that flashback is, him finding Jing and then, again, finding out that was actually his sensei's son that he struck. But yeah, I've seen that look at least once before. He's got the stubble, he's got the old hat, right? I've seen the hat in other flashbacks, and it's brand new. It all just looks nice. The outfit looks nice. There's a really cool shot of Jing from the last episode as well, or 2 episodes ago. At this point, it's of him, and it's at Greed Island, right? It's a really cool frame of him, and he looks super young, again, handsome, put together. But now, his eyes look a little bit droopy, or maybe not droopy. They look tired. They have that, the light is kind of gone from his eyes. That's how I see it. That's my take on it. That's my read on it. He's certainly not full of that energy that you see in some of his earlier days in these flashbacks, right? You see his hair is kind of coming out of the hat that's kind of old at this point. Just as a whole, the appearance, his image, he's kind of given up on it, right? He's not really put together anymore. And that really makes you think, doesn't it, about the journey he's been on, right? And the things he's done in his lifetime. But yeah, there's a lot of really significant insight that is given to us in this episode, right? And given to, of course, Gon and Killua as well, of course, through Kite. I find out that Jing is actually as qualified as a triple star hunter, right? That's incredible. It's not shocking, but it's really quite incredible to know that as well. But of course, he didn't bother applying for it. Apparently you have to apply for it. But he's just not the type who cares about that. And see, that actually is significant, because it tells you that at no point or no part of him actually does any of this for the fame or the recognition. He doesn't care about any of that, right? So it tells you that he actually legitimately cares about the things that he does. But that being said, even if he didn't want the fame, he got it anyways, because he has become this cult hero, or maybe a cult figure rather, right? Again, a lot of people kind of look up to him, admire him. And yeah, Kite gives us a bit more about the triple star hunter, right? The qualifications, the criteria. I think he says something like, these people are responsible for historical discoveries, right? Global, achievements. These are the people that qualify for this type of honor, right? And he said there's fewer than 10. It'd be great to actually come across even one other, right? Someone that is, part of that really exclusive group. And see, the thing is, a lot of these things he might have accomplished after Gon is born or was born, right? I mean, I'm sure he accomplished quite a bit before that as well. But, it's been clear for some time now that he did not feel that he can, give up on that life, that it's just kind of beginning for him. But see, at this point, there's certainly enough information on Jing to come to the conclusion that he was actually able to implement a really unique approach to raising Gon, right? I am of the belief at this point that he didn't completely just give up on raising Gon. Yes, it's really unique. And listen, before I go any further, I'm not excusing him for being an absent father, the more conventional and traditional approach, of course, right, of actually being present at all times, right, through those formative years. I mean, Jing has accomplished some incredible things in his life. He's helped so many people, right? And the thing is, he's actually perhaps more of a father figure to many people in comparison to his own son, or maybe even a big brother figure, right? A mentor figure for someone like Kite, because they kind of seem like similar in age, right? So that's another interesting thing to kind of look at, right? That he's actually made quite a bit of difference in many people's lives, right? But he wasn't really there for his own flesh and blood, at least in the more traditional and conventional approach to being a father. But again, that being said, I do believe there is enough there now, right? I mean, it's there, you cannot miss it at this point, that he did take the time, he did make the effort to kind of lay out his own unique method of raising Gon, right? That roadmap, that journey that Gon's going on, right? Because the journey itself is just as important as the destination. That is really kind of dialed in at this point, right? Because I've seen it again through Kite's own journey, right? His own growth. But yeah, at this point, it's not even really about believing a certain thing. I think it's clear at this point that Jing actually did take a really unique and different approach to raising Gon. It is an approach that allowed him, Jing, to continue his own journey, right? Pursue his own path, continue pursuing his own path, right? Even after the birth of his son. Because again, he must have felt like, he has so much still to do, so much work that still needs to be done. And yeah, at this point, it's really quite clear to see the thought process, the planning, the path Jing laid out, the roadmap. And the thing is, both Gon and Killua, and now Kite as well, understand that, yeah, this is by design. But yeah, let's focus a little bit more on Kite. He certainly has respect for life, right? And that extends to animals as well, right? I mean, it extends to them quite a bit. I see once again that he's frustrated that he had to take a life, once again forced to take a life. And then, of course, there's quite the immediate showcase for his Hatsu, right? His Nen ability. So it appears that he's conjuring weapons, through this role of roulette, right? The psychotic clown, the crazy slots, I believe, right? It's all kind of based on chance. So yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of really interesting possibilities, in the application of his Hatsu. I'm sure I'll get to see quite a bit of it, in the coming, episodes. In this arc. Again, the thing is, I don't even have, for the first time, I don't really even have a name to give to this arc, and I'm not asking for a name, I think it's better, to kind of be in the dark a little bit, right? Kind of going into the unknown, because, if you look at some of my titles, I was able to title the last arc Great Island because that just made so much sense. And the one before that, York New City, again, made a lot of sense. But for this one, I don't even really have a name to put in the title. And also in terms of differences, it appears that the whole, Hunter license thing isn't really even a thing in 2011's take on it, because it was a big thing, or it was at least a focus in 99 episode 1. Again, it's not confirmed, but I just kind of assumed that Kite's been carrying Jing's Hunter license, perhaps. And again, by the end of that episode, it's in Gon's possession. So yeah, it's certainly not a thing here in 2011's take on it, because of course, for that to happen, they needed to have that conversation about, oh, your father's alive. I know who he is. He's my sensei. He's my teacher. He's out there. He's a hunter. And the talk about the hunter exam and all of that. And then, the license might have come into play, but, none of that's a thing in the 2011 take on it. And then finally, I do have another silhouette that makes sense now, right? From the original intro, from the first arc, the Hunter exam arc, right? The narrator explaining, the nature of the world of this anime, and, the nature of hunters. And again, it ends off on, the Hunter examiners, or the Hunter examiners, or at least a solid chunk of them are examiners, because one of those silhouettes is of Kite. I go back to that from time to time, to kind of, see if I saw anyone new, if I can kind of fill in the blanks. Yeah, there's at least 2 more that don't quite add up just yet. So there might be at least 2 more that I might get to see. But yeah, Kite's kind of in the middle, maybe a little bit to the right of the frame, but he's there. You can see by the length of his hair, the hat, his slender build. But yeah, I think that should do it for this one, folks. If you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you are interested in early access or full opacity, or perhaps even timer-based full length, consider checking out the Patreon page, and potentially supporting the channel in the process. The links are in the description and the pinned comment, also links to social media, if that's your thing. Right then, thank you so much for joining me, folks, and thank you for your time, because time is precious. It really is. And I do hope to see you again soon for the next one. Until then, take it easy.